It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we move into a Thursday, Gary, how are you?
I'm doing good.
All right.
Wow, it's crazy.
It is crazy.
I will say this. I mean, I really felt yesterday that the Biden campaign finally started.
Did they, I felt the same thing, and I thought, did they just write it on the calendar? Hey, when we come back January 3rd, we'll just start the campaign. It'll be 2024.
It was an interesting day, and the border stuff. I mean, everybody from Mayorkas to Adams now is trying to convince the country that the problem is Governor Abbott.
Yeah, right, yeah.
That Governor Abbott has lost control of the state. If this is the interesting thing, as we found out, was it yesterday or the day before, I know it was in the news and all yesterday, that the Biden administration has filed suit against the state of Texas that beginning in March will be deporting illegals unless the federal government stops it.
Right.
So as the federal government attempts to stop the state of Texas with the full support of Governor Abbott to do our own border control because the federal government will not, on that same day where that was to me, that if it happened the day before, doesn't matter. It was prominent yesterday. Mm-hmm. That story was prominent that they're going after the state of Texas. The state of Texas cannot control the border. That's up to the federal government. And it's the same day that both Adams and Mayorkas are out there saying, well, you've got Abbott there, and he's just not doing the job that he should be as governor for their state.
Yeah.
What the hell does that even mean?
Right. Yeah,
explain further. They're never forced to explain further.
No, and then Mayor Johnson of Chicago jumping in, too, over the weekend. I mean, this is exactly – it's clear those are the talking points. Also, the federal government asking the Supreme Court to stop to allow Department of Homeland Security to move or cut the razor wire that Texas has put in place.
Right.
And we'll see where that goes. But, the lawsuit, though, on deportations is going to be interesting once it starts to play out.
And Karine Jean-Pierre keeps saying that last year or some point in the last year or two that the Republicans were against more Border Patrol agents. Mm-hmm. I did see quite a few people fact check that and say, no, that's wrong. Mm. I couldn't find the story. There was no story that either party was referring to. But you and I have already said it. If they were asking for 2,000 Border Patrol agents last year, they wanted those Border Patrol agents not to send people back, but to help process people coming into the United States.
Yeah, right.
And that's the one thing. You really don't have the reporters. I know Jackie Heinrich yesterday was being complimented. I didn't think she did as great a job as, conservatives. Look at how she, nails her to the wall. I'm like, she's not nailing her to the wall. She's asking questions. And she's asking some of the right or partially correct questions, but the follow-ups have to be there. For example, she asked Karine Jean-Pierre, she said, last week you said that this isn't unusual. And she said, no, what I said is there's fluctuations, up and down. And her response should have come right back and said, no, you also said it's not unusual for the amount coming across is completely unusual, and you're breaking all the records. That's what I'm referring to.
Right.
Not that we all know there's ebbs and flows. That's not the point that I'm bringing up, and that's not the concern of the American public through the polling. The polling is you're letting people in.
Yeah.
And then, they're out there saying, well, we kicked back whatever hundreds of thousands of people. We sent them back. That's 1 out of every 70 that crosses the border.
Right.
And it's the most bizarre thing because They're all using the same arguments. They were out in force yesterday because it was Adams, Johnson, Mayorkas, and Karine Jean-Pierre, all with the same thing, that the border problem in the United States is the fault of Governor Abbott of Texas.
Right.
Does any Democrat believe that?
Yeah, if you believe that, you're buying the hype and you're lying to yourself.
Because what the administration is attempting to say is, we're trying to close the border, and the governor of Texas is stopping us from closing the border.
Right.
That's the message that's not what they mean. That's the message they're trying to communicate to what they believe is an ignorant audience out there listening.
Yeah. Well, no, that's it. If they can just and the willfully ignorant are going to hear it and not even consider it, not even think about it. The ones that aren't paying attention. But it's hard to believe that there are still people that aren't paying attention, but there are.
But it hasn't worked overall.
It's not going to work. It's the only thing. It's the only thing you have. When you've broken everything beyond recognition, it's Hail Mary time. And this is a Hail Mary. And they're doing a Hail Mary on all of it, on everything. I don't know what happens if they ever get to a debate stage. I'm guessing there's not going to be a debate between Trump and Biden, if Trump is the nominee.
No, I don't think there will be either, no.
I just don't see that happening. I don't see them allowing Biden on stage with anyone.
Well, if he gets those chiclets whitened again,
right,
it really would be an interesting contrast between that and his sunburn.
You know what I was going to say? You know what makes your teeth look whiter? When you get a bad sunburn. Yeah. Save on the whitening strips. Seriously, how does that happen? Who's actually paying attention? Is it that bad? Is it that bad at the White House that he goes on vacation? I mean, the First Lady's with him, right? Anybody paying attention? You got a guy, anybody his age, you kind of have to babysit them. You kind of have to make sure they're doing everything you ask them to do.
So that was the one thing, and we'll delve into that more, and also the fallout from Claudine Gay's resignation.
Yeah,
and we'll go through some of the headlines that the liberal media is that this is actually that she did nothing wrong. You know, this is a conservative war, and they're attacking plagiarism, but this was caused because of the conservatives targeting her.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Instead of what she did wrong.
It's Greg Abbott's fault.
It's Greg.
Just throw that in too.
And so we'll get to part of that. Hey, did you see? I can't forget about this story. I forgot about it yesterday, just because we had so much. You saw Elon Musk going after Green Day.
Oh yeah. That was from over the weekend.
Yeah,
right?
From their New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
On Dick Clark's New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
And basically substituted in American Idiot their song that said, "I'm not part of the redneck agenda," and Armstrong, what's his name? Billy. I always get Danny Joe Brown, the late singer of Molly Hatchet, and Billy Joe Armstrong.
Yeah.
I always get them confused.
Yeah.
But he changed the lyrics to, it's normally, "I'm not a part of the redneck agenda," to "I'm not a part of the MAGA agenda." And he writes, "Green Day goes," and Elon, we know you're up late. Mm-hmm. You got this from us.
Yeah.
Years ago, you got this from us.
Yeah.
Green Day goes from raging against the machine to milk toastedly raging for it.
Yeah.
Elon Musk wrote.
Right. Thanks for listening, Elon. We appreciate it.
And we said that we said this for the longest time about
Rage Against the
Rage
Machine.
Against the Machine,
Yeah.
that they're actually, as the Marxists, that, the Marxist influence that they have is total government control over a society.
Absolutely.
They don't believe in freedom. They don't believe, they believe, they're raging for the machine.
Right.
Rage Against the Machine has always wanted the machine to control your life. They're Marxists.
Right.
That's what Marxism is about.
Yep.
And so we said that years ago, and we just asked a question a couple of weeks ago, where's Green Day?
Yeah. And they popped up on a New Year's Eve special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I did see that, and I didn't see this before. I didn't watch any of it, but I saw that they had a Nashville New Year's.
Yeah, there were
This
a
year.
few, apparently. I saw still shots from a number of them the following day. I mean, I was in bed by 10 p.m.
Well, they had
night,
that cover band for Leonard Skinner. That band Leonard Skinner.
Yeah.
They had them apparently playing that cover band.
Well, then they had other artists playing with them. Yeah, they were doing like duets with other artists, and I thought, okay, I guess that's one way to go.
I'm just kidding. I just.
Yeah. Yeah, but
it's not. I mean, it hasn't been Leonard Skinner since 1977. So.
Right. Yeah.
It's-
Yeah.
What do you have? You have Ricky Medlock's the last one, right?
Yeah, if you want to, I don't know if you can call him an original member. He was
Right.
with them for about a year, 71, played drums. He actually sang lead on a couple of songs early on.
Okay, so he was before they hit it big
Yes.
with pronounced Leonard Skinner.
72,
Okay.
he took off to go form Blackfoot. But he grew up with those guys. He's known those guys.
But he wasn't a part of the original Leonard Skinner that
No.
there were,
No, that's what I was saying.
Right.
I don't know that you can call him original,
But
but early, very early.
Yeah, but
I
the
mean,
Leonard Skinner you would look at and you would say, okay, the people that are on pronounced Leonard Skinner, that cover.
Well, and
that's
the ones
that's
that
the
wrote
band.
the ones that wrote the big songs. I go back to what Don Henley and Glenn Frey were saying in that documentary about the Eagles. Look, we wrote all the songs. We're the Eagles. It's us two.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounded harsh. A lot of people were like, "How dare they?" It was like, no, that's the ownership. That's how it works. They created the music, and so I always go back to okay. Who was there when their big music was created? I mean, Ricky is a nice guy. He's a friend of a friend. A friend of mine played bass for Blackfoot in the 90s. And he's just a sweetheart of a guy by all accounts. I don't know him personally, but, but the fact is that, and he actually did an interview recently. Okay, after Gary Washington, why now continue to go on? He says, well, it's about the music, and we're just going to play the music. It's like, all right. If the fans keep showing up, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem with them. I have no problem doing what they're doing. I always just have fun though, because I was a Skinner fan. I mean, especially pronounced Leonard Skinner.
Yeah.
Street Survivors also was a great album. And then the one with when you think about it, what are they most well known for? It's not even Free Bird. It's the opening lick of
Sweet Home Alabama.
Sweet Home Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
That was what I just love is that lick came from Ed King. Ed King, who wasn't part of the original band,
right?
That came in after, right when they were recording the first album, I believe, is when they brought him in. Mm-hmm. But Ed King he was with Strawberry Alarm Clock, Incense and Peppermints.
Yeah,
and it's just it blows my mind.
Yeah,
but as I said, he was the key to giving them that 3-guitar sound.
Well, and he kind of elevated, they said, the word was back then, he kind of elevated, and the other musicians in the band were like, whoa, we need to, this is a new, he kind of brought something new, a new feel to the band with that. So
as did when he left Stevie Gaines, who died in the plane crash.
Yeah, yeah.
Because Street Survivors, I think, is a great album. I really liked it.
Yeah.
And what I like the Skinner, it's not the popular stuff or the 3-guitar stuff you hear. Mm-hmm. It's what I call the Florida swamp music stuff that they have on there.
Yeah.
It's much more mellow, but it's swamp. I mean, I could play it for people. They would have no idea it's Leonard Skinner.
Right. Yeah.
And that was really amazing that because, unless you listen to the entire album. And a lot of people, did back then, but still, most people don't know that some of the greatest stuff they did is not the three guitar army stuff
Well, I
that
mean,
they're so well known for.
And with Ricky Medlock and some of the stuff that he did covers of, these bluegrass songs throughout the years in different albums that I absolutely love. Now, he does a rock version of these bluegrass songs, but it's kind of their, where their roots are in part. So to me, that's always fascinating. I love that.
But yeah, Green Day back again. It's like, what do you stand for now? Sit down.
Well,
sit down, Billy Joe, and articulate what you actually believe, since you've opened your mouth so much in song lyrics that really don't give you a true indication of where you stand on the issues. I'd love to hear him try to defend where the left has gone in this day and age.
I mean, all of it. Look at the entire heaping, steaming pile that the left is these days, the Democratic Party. And if that's what you're supporting, you call yourself punk?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Punk is now, well, you think about it, you think Rage Against the Machine, they were raging for the machine.
Oh, yeah.
They were for conformity to a government that would tell people what a Marxist government that would control everything, that you would be subservient for.
Yeah.
And people
that
were
now
cheering
want to control your children.
Now we should control your children. And, the same thing, punk. And that's why, what was it, a couple of the Ramones ended up being conservative. They go, well, punk is about freedom. It's about individuality.
Right.
It's about autonomy. It's about what we can do, and to hell with all of you.
Right.
Well, that's a heck of a lot more conservative than it is liberal, that idea.
Right, exactly. It's libertarian conservative. Get out of my life, stay out of my life. I don't want the government involved.
We got a great show ahead, 866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. You may not be able to predict blizzards and ice storms, but you can prepare your truck to handle them. Make sure your truck is prepared for any last-minute winter storms by keeping tabs on your tires before each trip. Proper tire traction is essential year-round, but especially during winter when the roads are slick and roadway behavior is unpredictable. Protect your tire investment with routine checks and pre-trip inspections all winter long. Check pressure levels, tread depth, and inspect for any visible damage or debris stuck in wheel components. Look for steam or melted snow coming off wheel hubs, as this could indicate your wheel bearings are overheating. If necessary, give your tires a warm wash before inspecting them, as snow can cover potential warning signs of damage.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I thought yesterday was an interesting day, and as I said when we kicked off the show, I went, the campaign has, begun, and it's not just for Biden. I mean, how they all were trying to put the blame on Governor Abbott was interesting, because it's not going to work.
Yeah, right.
It hasn't been successful and won't be successful. But the other thing was really interesting is the fallout from Claudine Gay's resignation from Harvard. I mean, this is just beautiful. We'll dive into some of the liberal analysis of this, because it's just completely and totally bizarre.
Yeah, it really is. Did you see the protesters that put up the signs on the U-Haul truck?
Yeah.
It's moving day, Claudine Gay.
Yeah.
Outside her university president home, where the president lives.
But I'm happy that she, in her op-ed piece, if you read about that, yesterday or read that,
I read it,
which is just bizarre. It's she's a victim. She's a victim of racism,
right,
when she's the one practicing the racism.
On your smart speaker, say, play Red Eye Radio. And, if you're really nice, she might. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today and listen when and where you choose, if you can't listen live overnight, to one of our great radio station affiliates. And we thank you so much. I did see that it was written yesterday by Larry David. You can only say Happy New Year up to the 3rd. So we've moved on. We're well into.
Yeah, I would say the 3rd is pushing it.
Yeah.
I'd say noon on the 1st is pushing it. I would say happy is also pushing it.
Well, I tell you, I was happy yesterday because when you see, we talked about in the for identity politics and the radical transgender movement. You and I were talking about this for years. I mean, years we were talking about this when we talked about identity politics in general, which is judging people by the group that you're in, and not as individuals, and the radical transgender movement that's completely insane, defies any type of scientific mindset. Is just, this is how I feel today, and we've been talking about it for the longest time, and I'm sure you'll agree with me on this at times, because we were so early on both of these topics and pounding on them, and every time there was an incident, we would bring it up on the air. Many times we felt like we were alone, like nobody else was really talking about it.
Yeah.
And so yesterday to see, everything going on at Harvard, and we know the left isn't going to try to give up on it. When you practice identity politics, how do you reverse it? When you judge people by groups, you can't all of a sudden say, okay, we're going to judge people as autonomous individuals and any discrimination is wrong.
Right. Yeah, you can't reverse that heavy investment from years, especially when, many of the people involved were fully indoctrinated from day one, from a very early age.
And so this is an opportunity to pound on something that you can win. And not just Republicans, but anybody on the right. And you're seeing that happen. Mm-hmm. You're seeing, when to sit there and think, the U-Haul truck, at Harvard, to think about that happening at Harvard is in itself mind-boggling, because I don't think anybody would have thought that. To see, Jewish students speaking out. Yeah. Yesterday was sort of like when you after you had Riley Gaines and then other women, join her and say what's going on in the radical transgender movement is ridiculous, and that's been growing and growing and growing, and more women are getting involved in it, saying stop erasing us. Stop. And you see the same thing going on. Reading here, Drew Holden from the Washington Free Beacon. Number of outlets wanted to blame anything but Gay for her own academic fraud. New York Times blamed a proxy fight over campus politics for her resignation. It isn't clear how this proxy fight could have caused her to commit plagiarism. Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
Politico did the same thing. Nightly reports on the right's coordinated campaign that helped engineer the departure of the head of the most influential university in the world. What? He goes, Politico did the same, blaming conservatives for doing journalism about a powerful person who had committed fraud.
Yeah, wow.
CNN's Matt Egan, perhaps the most head-spinning word salad to explain how it actually wasn't plagiarism. We actually played this audio cut. Bonkers explanation here. We should note that Claudine Gay has not been accused of stealing anyone's ideas in any of her writings. She has been accused of sort of more like copying other people's writings without attribution, which is plagiarism.
Yeah.
So it's been more sloppy attribution than stealing anyone's ideas. Drew Holden writes, and this guy apparently is a journalist.
Well, it's exactly what we said yesterday when we played that audio and said, well, wait a minute. If you wrote a story there at CNN and then Fox News verbatim copied it and then posted it at foxnews.com, would that be plagiarism? And, of course, it would be. oh, well, she just forgot to recognize the person who wrote it. No, she didn't. She stole it.
Well, if you ever wonder, for example, when we started doing this right now, we credited that it was Mr. Holden who organized this all on Twitter and all these different articles.
Yeah, right.
Now, we probably wouldn't have to do that, but we don't take any. If it's somebody else doing it, we have no problem analyzing what somebody else is doing.
Right.
Plagiarism is not something that we worry about here. We give credit to anybody who does a story.
Right.
Go ahead. This is an op-ed piece. Here's what they wrote.
Right. Exactly.
Now, we will say we've had similar, we've talked about this before, we've had similar ideas to this op-ed piece or this editorial, which is why we're bringing it up, because people are joining us, because we've been on that idea for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no reason that you need to plagiarize. There shouldn't be,
No,
unless you don't have the thoughts of your own.
Well, it's, when while we were on vacation, the students at Harvard that were sticking up for her, you should have known something was wrong when those students wrote in their letter to the faculty and others at Harvard. They started with 7 years ago.
Yeah, I saw that. Yes, I saw that.
Did somebody else see that joke?
Yeah, somebody else. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Oh, yeah, there was
I was
on
actually
social
going to
media.
use. I was actually going to use.
Yeah.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union. But that's and by the way, there you have it. And I didn't plagiarize anything because I didn't see that other joke. But there are common thoughts, especially when you talk about ideas. When it is verbatim, she wrote it verbatim. She didn't write it at all. She stole it.
And then he puts Ibram X. Kendi, the creator of the modern critical race theory movement, that all whites are culturally racist.
Yeah.
And you can't stop
Right.
it, so all society
Exactly.
must be set up this way.
Right.
And so that's the justification, is that if you hold Claudine Gay to the same standard that you would hold anybody else, you're a racist, because
Right.
she is allowed to commit plagiarism.
Right.
She is allowed to be an anti-Semite because she has the approved skin color to do so. That's how simple this is. This isn't hard.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's the incredible thing, is that you see this. Here it is, Al Sharpton. Harvard's president resignation is an attack on every black woman in the United States. Because every black woman in the United States, if not a conservative, should be able to plagiarize and be an anti-Semite.
Right.
Al Sharpton. Good God.
Well, when I saw that, and by the way, when I saw that, I thought, well, what do all of the other black women in the United States feel about what he just said? Why are you throwing us under the bus? We didn't plagiarize anything. We're not anti-Semites.
Yeah. How's it an attack? We didn't attack her. We attacked what she said.
Right. Because if you say that they're attacked, the thought is, well, you're attacking her for this reason. It's based on her actions. And when you say it's an attack on every black woman in the United States, you're implying they're also guilty of plagiarism and anti-Semitism. And the first thought I had was, man, how do that? Don't throw me under the bus. If I were a black woman, I would say, don't throw me under. I didn't do any of that. This isn't an attack on me because I'm not guilty of what she's guilty of.
And for all those on the left, you see it on social media saying that the next president must be another black woman. We're fine with Condi Rice.
Yes.
Yep. And I did see that on social media, too. I had thought about it before I saw it on social media. We're just being very careful not to plagiarize.
Yeah.
But when I saw that one, I just burst out
Great
laughing.
minds think alike, yeah.
Because it's not
No, by the way, I was waiting for her to say that. Listen, great minds think alike. Not down to the actual sentence, they don't. Repeatedly.
And here, Hannah Jones here. Let's be real. This is an extension of what happened to me at University of North Carolina, and it's a glimpse of the future to come. Academic freedom is under attack. Racial justice programs are under attack. Black women will be made to pay. Our so-called allies too often lack any real courage. Are you saying that Condoleezza Rice is going to be made to pay for this?
Right.
Are you telling me that any conservative black woman out there is going to have to... Oh, no, liberals are what you're saying. Oh. Racist black women, anti-Semitic black women will be made to pay. Let's be accurate about what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Because if it's a black woman, if it's just a black woman, you would have a point. But you don't have a point because it's not about the fact that she's a black woman. It's about the fact that she's made it known she's anti-Semitic and a racist.
It's about behavior. This is very clear to anybody who actually looks at it honestly.
And she's doing the race baiting as she leaves.
Right.
That she's a victim of all of this.
Right.
Christopher Rufo wrote again. He's the one that really started attacking, Ibram X. Kendi and critical race theory back a couple of years ago.
Right.
Is with the Manhattan Institute. And, they've been saying, that he's responsible. This was, he had it out for her. It's like, I didn't have it out for anybody. He goes, in fact, it was the Washington Free Beacon that came up with, that did most of the new plagiarism stuff that came aboard. He goes, for DEI and critical race theory and all that, he's been against that for the longest time. But it's simply not because she's a black woman. It's the ideas that are in her brain as a human being.
Yeah.
And they know they can't argue that, so they're screaming racism.
Yeah, right.
They're screaming racism because that's what they always do when they cannot argue the specifics of any issue out there. And they can't argue they can't argue the specifics of it.
Right.
Nobody's debating. Look, all the major liberal newspapers wrote about where she plagiarized. Everybody knows she plagiarized. What the left is trying to say is it's okay if you're a liberal black woman to plagiarize.
Right.
You can do it. And if anybody attacks you, they're a racist.
Right.
That you can do wrong because people of your same skin color were wronged 100 years ago.
Right.
Which, of course, is ridiculous. That doesn't hold water. But this is how they're panicking, and they were panicking yesterday. And Christopher Rufo wrote, he goes, look, we're winning this because we're arguing it correctly, and we're attacking it, he said, in three different ways, the specifics of the charges, financial and the truth. And he goes, he goes, and if we continue doing this, and I was happy that she actually wrote the op-ed piece, and she is promoting her anti-Semitism and her race baiting. I'm happy she's doing it. Let's have the debate, because the only debate they're having is, well, all right, you're a racist if you think that she should have resigned. Well, why? Explain why. Well, she's a black woman. Okay, so that's it? There's nothing else involved in this? Right. Well, no, she was set up by the members of Congress. How is she set up?
Did she plagiarize or not?
Yeah,
Did she engage in anti-Semitism or not? She did on both.
And did she have a problem answering a question about the genocide of Jews?
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, it's racist for Stefanik to ask a black woman a question.
Right.
This is what we're getting down. This is the idiocy that we're getting to, and what they're saying is.
Well, no, they've used that before, by the way, on the liberal transgender movement. You're a bigot if you question it. Yeah. That's it. If you just ask a question, any dissent is bigotry.
Well, let me ask this question to anybody on the left, any Democrat. Why can't you question a liberal black woman, but you can question a conservative black woman?
Right.
You can't answer that question because it's not about being black. It's about the beliefs that you hold.
Right.
And what you're
It's
promoting.
about your agenda.
It's about your agenda. Right.
And now it's crumbling. It's starting to crumble.
So keep doing it. Keep it.
Oh, yeah.
Keep it's
No, the louder this goes, the more this goes on, the better for the truth.
866-90 Red Eye.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. We continue to observe and analyze the insanity.
Yeah.
More coming up.
Top of the hour news is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
Where was this here? I think it was Christopher Rufo who said yesterday the journalists aren't being journalists. Academia out there supporting plagiarism, journalism not being journalists, and then this in relation to journalists not being journalists. This one, the Associated Press. This is one that they love the most. Harvard president's resignation highlights new conservative weapon against colleges, plagiarism. New conservative weapon against colleges, plagiarism. And then inside of it, they had Christopher Rufo, the conservative activist who helped orchestrate the effort, celebrated her departure as a win for his campaign against elite institutions of higher education. On X, formerly Twitter, he wrote, "Scalped as if gay was a trophy of violence, invoking a gruesome practice taken up by white colonists who sought to eradicate Native Americans." Had to be brought up that it was not a practice taken up by white colonists against Native Americans. Native Americans used it first.
Right.
I mean, they just get everything. It's like everything they're getting wrong. And so, and Rufo commented on that. He goes, this is great because they're delving into stuff. They're trying to defend the indefensible, and their backs are against the wall, and so they're just throwing crap at the wall, hoping it's going to stick.
Well, it's the only thing you can do if you're on the far left and you've been found out. When everyone just unveils the truth about you. It's plain for everyone to see. And the only way you can defend it is if you're a complete hack and the agenda is everything and the truth is nothing. That's the only way you can defend any of these actions. And there's no way to defend the actions of anti-Semitism. That is 100% unacceptable. And you throw in the whole plagiarism thing. You know, I mean, it's over and over again, the left is being found out, the story's being told, the agenda is falling apart. And they go back to their old playbook. Well, you're a bigot.
No, actually, you are.
Very clear.
You know, it's just the Drew Holden thread that he created on all, how the media was covering this. This from Forbes. Claudine Gay resigns from Harvard. Why black excellence is never enough.
No, I mean, it's
So
the only place they can go.
Black excellence is now anti-Semitism and plagiarism?
Right.
Is that black excellence?
Right.
Is it it's certainly, I'll tell you this, it certainly would not be conservative black excellence.
Right. It's not excellence by any standard that I know of. That kind of behavior doesn't belong.
And Drew Holden writes, I haven't stopped, was waiting on something ridiculous from the Washington Post, and they didn't disappoint. No mention in the tweet about what actually caused Gay to resign her penchant for plagiarizing. The resignation, this is from the Washington Post, the resignation of Claudine Gay as president of Harvard University marks the culmination of a conservative war on higher education, long fought on campuses, but this time triggered by hard questions from Republicans in Washington and their allies.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just... Oh, man. I'm telling you, it's just... I mean, it's bizarre because it's so weak. And what you sense is, you sense panic coming from them, and so they revert to the only place they can revert, which is their comfort zone of anti-Semitism and racism.
And where is the true mea culpa?
Oh, there wasn't one.
There never is. No. Tell me when you've seen that from the far left on something like this, when they're found out. The last time they've said, I'm guilty as charged. And the reason is because Ms. Gay is going to likely go on and do something else. I mean, I'm sure the leftist media is clearing out a place for her on some panel somewhere.
Yeah, she's fine where she is now if they're not going to let her go.
No, $900,000 a year. Yeah. You know?
Now,
but my point is
now the billionaire Bill Ackman is not happy with it at all.
Oh, yeah, no.
He wrote another huge thing on it going, what?
Yeah.
So this hasn't, because she's staying, this hasn't ended. And because of the response from everybody in the media, conservatives are taking this up going, and you think about it. You think of, we've talked about Rufo before and what he has done. You work for the Manhattan Institute, and I've been following the Manhattan Institute for a long time. And, I should have mentioned them when we were talking about publications that are spot on as promoting conservative ideas, and the Manhattan Institute is one of them. And I just can't think of the name of the guy who was a director. I don't know if he's still the director or not. Wrote the book, The Dream and the Nightmare, the 60s Legacy to the Underclass. Great book about the pathology of dependency. I just can't think of his name here. Marvin Magnet. I'm not sure. I think he was the head of the Manhattan Institute. I don't know if he still is or not. I haven't checked out their page in a while. But you have got some really smart people out there. You've got that didn't exist before. This wasn't happening 3-4 years ago. You didn't have the Rufos out there challenging critical race theory as he has. Now you've got a well-organized conservative effort to go after the radical transgender activist movement. You've got then people like Barry Weiss. And this is the really interesting part. You've got these people that are lifelong Democrats coming out and saying the Democrats are toxic. When Barry Weiss, God, if you know the history of Barry Weiss, when she came out and said, I would actually vote for Trump, that article blew my mind.
Yeah.
It shows you, how far the Democratic Party has gone. And we wondered, and look, if you've got people like Michael Schellenberger, Matt Taibbi, I mean, Matt Taibbi was as liberal as you could get.
Oh, yeah.
Barry Weiss, Jonathan Turley, even Dershowitz. Dershowitz. All these people are such solid credentialed liberals who have now rejected liberalism and where it's going.
Well,
And the Democratic Party embrace of it.
That's the difference, because there you have it. I asked, where's the mea culpa? Well, you never see one in something like this. But a Barry Weiss saying, I was wrong about Trump, when she wrote that. When what she said was, Trump was right. And when she wrote that, and we, talked about that piece that night and have repeatedly since, that is a critical thinker saying, you know what? I didn't see this before. I clearly see it now. And so many on the far left are just heavily invested, fully invested into the agenda, that they could never, ever admit to the wrongdoing. Plagiarism is about as clear as anything in terms of a wrongdoing, especially by the president of a university like Harvard. Think about this, how big this is. And no, that's not plagiarism. I mean, I'm waiting for somebody. She just borrowed. She was just honoring someone else's work. She just forgot to put it in quotations. She just, give her every excuse in the book. And if you ask a question about it, you're a bigot. And the left, I don't care who you are, you're smart enough to see this.
John Paderis of the New York Post tweeted out, Rick Hess of the American Enterprise Institute was a fellow student of Claudine Gay's. His perspective here is eye-opening. What it suggests is that she's a hustler, not an ideologue, which makes sense because DEI is at root a hustle. Think about Black Lives Matter and the leaders of Black Lives Matter. That was a money hustle.
Yeah.
That wasn't an ideologue.
Right.
They used and in essence threatened corporations that we're going to come after you and we're going to call you racist. And they got the support of sports leagues out there. Oh, by the way, we need to mention this? Elon Musk basically came out and said any discrimination is discrimination and it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it's illegal.
Mm-hmm.
And then Mark Cuban, well, I don't see what's wrong with DEI. Diversity, equity, inclusion. And he just got blasted. When I came in, I looked at you and said, is he pretending to be stupid? Like he doesn't know? Like he hasn't been paying attention at all to any of this? He goes, well, diversity is good. And he got blasted.
Once a liberal, always a liberal. I mean, you're just not going to give something like that up.
He got blasted saying, you're talking about the traditional definition of words, not how the left now defines all of this.
Right.
Apparently, Mr. Cuban, you haven't been paying attention.
Yeah.
So before you publicly put something on Twitter, you should know what the hell's actually going on.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting going back. And that's the thing, though. You have now an organized, loud conservative media, a significant portion of it made up by former Democrats and liberals who have said liberalism has just gone way too far.
Some of the most important voices right now in the conversation are just that. They are former liberals that you probably at one point would have said, and may have along the way, well, they'll never see it. They'll never come around, or whatever you in your mind you would think that would never happen. The Barry Weiss thing is huge for that reason. We talked about it that night with that piece that she wrote on Trump. Well, that's a critical thinker breaking it down, going, look, this is what happened. She didn't have to make things up. She didn't have to borrow, anything from anybody else or echo anything that anybody else was saying. She looked at it for what it was. I really wonder on November 5th how many people that have voted Democrat all their lives may just be saying, there's no way I can support this. I don't know, but I'm so darn curious to find out if there is, and you talk about, the words silent majority always come up. I don't know. I have no idea if it will be measurable at all, but I have to believe there are others out there that are true blue Democrats to the core, but look at this and say, there's no way I can support this any longer.
I think when you think of Barry Weiss and Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger, who are all part of the Twitter files, I think it scared the hell out of them when they actually saw how involved the government was in using social media companies and censoring them. And
it was like reading a script from a movie.
Yeah, and I think it scared the hell out of them how involved the FBI was.
I think you're right. I think that's a great point. I think you're right on that.
I really think that, a lot of them would say, well, we're always concerned about it, but that's not happening.
Yeah.
And once they actually went in and saw that it was happening,
they saw everything that people were
right.
writing and how involved the FBI was, because otherwise it sounds like a conservative talk show conspiracy.
And exactly. And they were the ones that really legitimized it out of being a conservative conspiracy theory,
right.
because they're all on the left.
Right.
But there's we're liberals, but we believe in the liberal things like freedom of speech.
Right.
And we don't believe that the government should be censoring, and the media should not be, the social media companies and the media companies should not be colluding with the government in power or a political party to not cover a story or have a story in front of them and not cover it.
Right.
Because of the government pressure or because an agreement that we're going to tell everybody that we are journalists and we're not. We're political activists.
Right.
And I think when they went through and they actually saw it, because it can be happening and you can be shocked, but when you actually are down in the trenches and you're reading through the emails and you realize the collusion that existed between the Democratic Party, those against Trump, and in our intelligence agencies, in the FBI, in the State Department, in the current administration, and how they approve of censoring. They don't believe in freedom of speech. They only want you to hear the news that they present to you with their spin. And they will do everything to destroy anyone who wants to let the truth out.
Right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Managing time is key. Successful owner-operators know that simply running hard is not enough. If it were that easy, anyone could do the job and expect the profits to roll in. It generally pays to slow down. There is a trade-off in higher costs, not to mention the increased risk for driving fast. If driving slower takes time away from you, you could find some of the ways to get it back. Never take time off during the last 2 weeks of the quarter or the last week of the month, when freight typically is abundant. Sometimes it works to your advantage to look for loads that take you through home rather than to home. The latter can interrupt your revenue stream and require additional time to get back up to full speed again. Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. But when I look at it overall, the one thing that I'm happy about is, and you and I pounded this for the longest time, and it all started years ago when you and I looked at each other and said, why does the left always think that the first thing that's on our mind is that, any opinion we have is racist? And, it's like they just, and we know it's a fallback position because they can't argue the actual minutia of any particular issue because they know they'll lose. But then we realize we think it's deeper than that. That actually, if you look at, we talk about, white guilt. I think there's a lot of white liberal guilt. I believe that one of the reasons we couldn't understand it is because we don't think that way. We don't think in terms of skin color.
Right.
We think of in terms of autonomy and individualism. Mm-hmm. And that's how you judge a people, of any person, not a people, but any person, by, as Martin Luther King said, the content of their character, and as we say, also the substance of their argument, because we're in talk radio. And that's what's being exposed, the racism of the left. And the longer they keep this up, the more they give the opportunity for the right to show the people of America, no, these are the racists.
Five hours a night, and still not enough. Listen to our podcast, available on the app and on our website, rediradioshow.com.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. What a day we had yesterday, as both on the immigration the border problem. We'll get to that coming up here in a little bit, and also the fallout from the resignation of Claudine Gay from Harvard. Let's go to Jim in Pittsburgh. Jim, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Welcome to the show. Hi.
And hey, great show. Love it. You talked something very intriguing to me about shutting people up. Well, I'm 71. I graduated from college in 1975. Watergate was undergoing at the time. I've been following politics for over 50 years. I can tell you whites raced it too. I remember after 9/11, it was like Bush lied, people died. Then when Obama became president, which was 2008, I had a cousin. She was a Republican turned Democrat. Oh, you're voting for, you're against Obama, you're racist. I go, no, I'm not. I go, he's a far leftist. I don't care if he's green, white, or blue. And then they continue it because they take it personal. People before 9/11 didn't take politics personally. They didn't even hardly talk about it, to tell you, in my opinion. I don't remember them talking about it. But they take it personal. And I saw one demonstration when I was going to the University of Pittsburgh. It was for Nixon to resign, believe it or not. Now, my home alma mater, they had people on there, Palestinians for justice, because the radical left has infiltrated the schools. Really, I mean, they started. I mean, there was a book called Christopher Russo. I have just read it recently, Cultural Revolution.
Yeah, we just mentioned.
And he traces it.
Yeah, we've been talking about.
I did. Okay.
The last half hour, we probably mentioned his name 10,
I didn't hear that.
5 or 6 times. Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I did turned in. I didn't. Yeah. Okay, wonderful. But they take it personal. That's why they shout people off at the college campuses. If you're a conservative, because they don't want to hear it, and it's because of they take it personal.
Well, I would say, look, when you get into, and thanks so much for your call, Jim. We appreciate you listening. When you get into an argument and you believe you're right, taking it personal comes probably into it for most people. We've been doing it for so long. If someone questions my integrity, I might take it personally. If it's an issue, not really. I mean, I may be passionate about it because I believe there's an injustice being done or the Constitution's not being followed. I would say I don't believe it's as much that they take it personally as they have lost all talking points. They don't have any talking. Yeah. They can't defend what they actually believe.
Well, and I would say...
And that's where the anger comes out. That's frustrating.
Sure. And I would say, too, that rather than phrase it as they take it personally, Jim, I would say that they invest everything into it emotionally. When you've invested so heavily, when you're proven wrong, it hurts. And they invested heavily all along the way in the agenda, in the people. They often do that. We saw that with Obama. And to the point that, you had news organizations selling cups and T-shirts, and these are the things that you look at and say, okay, what gets them so into the agenda? Now, these days, I don't know about how much emotional investment it is, because so much, I think, over the last 3 to 5 years has changed drastically with the radicals on the far left. Now the radicals are the loudest part. Now, the far left has always been, in recent years especially, the loudest part. But, I mean, they lead everything in the far left. They are the poster children of the far left, and it's their agenda that is to get done if they have their way. Now, that emotional investment, is again something that burns when you try to convince somebody that, you gotta vote for this person. This person is great. This person is great, and it's not on the ideas. Well, it most often is on the left, that emotional investment, and it goes on for, now for many of them for generations, maybe their entire adult life. They've been thinking this way, and they can't back out of it.
I'll say this, in 89, there was a lot of passion when I became a talk show host. So
Yeah.
There was still a lot of passion on the issues out there. Are there probably more people that are, I guess, exposed to opinions out there? Yes, because talk radio is now mainstream. The internet is here. The internet wasn't here in 89 when I began. And so you can become much more involved, or you can become much more well-read. Not everybody is, just because the information is available doesn't mean that people now know the issues, because we see a great deal of ignorance out there. One of the things we have talked about is the fact that the majority of people in most polls cannot name the 3 branches of government, which means you're arguing from a point of ignorance. I think that a majority that you see when you look at these radicals who are screaming back at you, and you're saying they're taking it, they take it personal, it's twofold. I think, number one, it may be threefold. Number one, they cannot argue the point against you. Why? They're not prepared. They really don't know the issue to begin with. We find this a lot. We find that most liberals that communicate with us will bring up one point, and as soon as we start arguing, they're like, well, you're a racist or whatever. We don't want to, we're not going to even continue it because you're a racist. We believe that they think that we're a racist because that's how they think. Think about this. If you're a political party that endorses identity politics, for God's sakes, we're in 2024 now. We landed a man on the moon. Wow. A long time ago.
It's crazy.
It's 2024, and you've got a major political party that says we're not going to judge people as individuals. We're not going to try to progress as a political party to promote autonomy and individuality. We're going to be as bigoted as we've ever been in this country, and we're just going to accuse the other side of being the racist. Why we promote a racist agenda of identity politics, where we don't judge people as individuals, but we put them in groups. That's why it's so easy to tear apart their whole arguments on Harvard. Because anti-racism, I'm in the anti-racism movement. My response would be, so you're a racist. Because that's what the anti-racism movement is. And we've seen it. And understand that the modern identity politics movement, the racist movement, started against blacks that were conservative. That's where it started. And I use the modern in the late 80s, early 90s. And I look at that as really the beginning of opinionated talk radio. Rush starting it really in 88, but then a bunch of local talk show hosts over the next 5 years coming forward in almost every market. And if you were a black conservative, you were not welcome in the Democratic Party. You were called everything in the book.
You still aren't.
Yeah, you still aren't. No, we've seen the flag that they take. And it's not that you're wrong on the issues. It's you're not truly black. We saw it in the summer of 2020.
Mm-hmm.
The imagery of those two white women screaming at the black cop, telling him he doesn't know what it means to be black.
Right.
And he's not black, he's blue.
Right.
I mean, that said it right there. And so I think, because we talk about when the left came out and, in the summer of 2020 and, said all police departments are systemically racist, that systemic racism and institutional racism still exist. And it does, but it's not in the police departments and it's not on the right. It's on the left. It's the modern identity politics movement. Because where can you go from I'm not going to judge you as an individual, I'm going to judge you by the color of your skin? I mean, where the hell do you go? How the hell is the left and the Democratic Party embracing such a Neanderthal philosophy in 2024? And that's why they can't win this, because everybody out there listening to us right now knows we are right on this.
Well, that's why the whole DEI thing is blatantly, clearly bogus.
Yeah.
Tell somebody, break it down for anybody. What is behind it, the thought behind it? Well, you can't be a conservative and also be black. I'm sorry, is that inclusion?
Nope.
No, it is not.
Is that diversity?
No, it is not.
No, it's not.
Because the left will tell you that if you're a conservative black, something is wrong with you, or you're not thinking for yourself, somebody else is thinking for you. You can't get more racist than that thought that I just laid out for you. And they've been attacking conservative blacks for decades.
And that's why we say when the first saying, well, the reason Claudine Gay is gone is because she's a black woman and black women just get, fine, we'll put Condi Rice in there.
Right.
You're saying it's just about being a black woman. Fine, Condi.
Right.
It's not about being a black woman.
No, it's not.
It's about your behavior as a human being and the opinions that you hold as a human being.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
And so when you look at what's going on, some may take it personal, but I think, and I know that everybody knows my story. I never wanted to be a talk show host.
Mm.
And why? Because especially when you begin, it takes a while to go through all the issues. I was just thrown in there. I wasn't like I said, okay, my plan is to be a talk radio host. I'm going to study all the issues. And on this day, 5 years after studying the issues, I'm going to become a radio talk show host.
Mm-hmm.
It was one day I'm a music DJ doing stand-up comedy at times and a station manager. And the next day I'm on the air, supposedly knowledgeable on all topics that a talk show host is supposed to, be. And I wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't prepared. I didn't know. And there's a fear of when you get in the arena of ideas and somebody can blow you out of the water.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why you see the anger and the lies and the political activism you see in journalism, not journalists anymore, the political activism, which is we're just going to write the story whether it's a lie or not, and we'll just keep doubling down on the lie no matter what,
Right.
and we're going to call you a racist.
And we'll defend the actions, to the end. And that's, this is the problem that they have, is that everything now is, the entire world is the arena of ideas. It's podcasts. It's social media. It's a discussion group on your phone. It's everywhere. And the left is being found out because there's more light coming down on what they're doing, what they're trying to get done. And when that light exposes everything like we're seeing, it's bound to fall apart, and that's when they get more radical.
And I do believe that part of the reason that DEI has been so successful, and you look and you say, well, look how many white liberals are promoting it. I believe that's where the white guilt on racism exists in our country. I think the evidence that they're promoting something that is clearly racist is because they understand, they believe in identity politics. They believe they're racist and they feel guilty about it. So they believe when Kendi comes out and says, well, critical race theory, all whites are culturally racist, so you have to form society in that way. They look at themselves and go, yeah, we have to because I'm a racist.
Right.
And then they think that you're a racist, that Republicans and conservatives are racist because we all think that we think the same, and we don't think the same.
Right.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up on the top of the hour, a couple more things to say about the Harvard situation. We'll get to illegal immigration from yesterday and border security, which was just a complete and total zoo. I got a couple of interesting things. I know something on EVs. What was the other thing I wanted to get? Oh, this is great. Utilities get inflation shock. All these utilities are saying we need rate increases, and they're not. The government's not allowing it. It's like, well, what are you doing? Because they've created this monster of increasing electricity prices, and utilities like, okay, time to raise it. No, you can't raise it.
Well, don't the local and state and even federal governments know that you got to pay attention to what Obama was saying? Under his plan of cap and trade, electricity rates would necessarily skyrocket. You got to raise the rates.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here. Here we go. Yeah, so interesting as we examine what's going on right now in the left, more than just the actual issues at hand, but how the issues extrapolate out to, you know, where we're going to be a year from now or 2 years from now or 3 years from now or 4 years from now. So when we look at the Harvard thing, what it's exposing is the racism and the anti-Semitism that exists, the racism of DEI and the anti-Semitism that the left, especially the left in higher institutions of lower institutions of learning in the United States embrace.
Yeah. Look,
and we just lost the one person I was going to go to in a couple of seconds here. I just wanted to mention he said that you knew it when Biden said that you're not black unless you vote for him.
Mm-hmm.
Now the interesting thing is, and I wanted to go to that caller. Too bad he left us, but thanks anyway for it. But as we've stated, that was Leonard Larry McKelvey who said that, also known as the talk show host Charlemagne the God.
Mm-hmm.
We like calling him Leonard Larry instead.
Yeah,
but it was interesting because he came out just the other day. It's noteworthy that the gentleman called us because he came out the other day. He said he will not be endorsing Biden and Kamala Harris.
Yeah, and by the way, we knew that about Biden long before that. Anybody who was paying attention, of course,
Yeah.
but certainly you see it if you're paying attention. And the left has been very effective at building blinders. And if you're wearing the blinders, you are part of the willfully ignorant. you choose not to look. If you put them on, and they build them at every turn because they're counting on people who are ignorant, whether they are willfully ignorant or otherwise, in order to get their agenda done. But for anybody who's paying attention, on the left or the right, you know the truth. You can see it. The left believes you're stupid. We don't believe that here. We believe you're smart enough to see it. And if you choose not to, or you choose to defend the agenda, you're part of it, and that's on you. Because if I'm going to say, well, the people just aren't smart enough to see it. No, you're smart enough to see it. I'm not going to give anybody that excuse. You can be willfully ignorant. Maybe you don't participate in the, exchange of ideas on a regular basis, and that's okay too. But if you look at it for what it is and you assess it otherwise, then you're part of it. And there's no way around that. And the radicals are very clear right now what they want. Everything from the anti-Semitism that has been on full display, if you had any question before October 7th, it's been on full display since October 7th, to the entire agenda here domestically that has been going on for a long, long time. You either support that or you don't. And that's on you.
And I think part of the anger from the left comes from the fact that if you do pick up your opinions, as we call it, we used to call it bumper sticker mentality, but meme mentality out there, or slogan mentality that a lot of people do. It's really amazing when you go out there, especially on the left.
Oh, yeah.
And they get into a discussion, they get blown away, you get angry. You take it when you believe you're morally right based on your ignorance, because that's what it is. Mm-hmm. I'm morally right. I'm right on this one, but I'm completely ignorant on it. Mm-hmm. I really can't argue it whatsoever. And I talked about the gentleman I was on the plane with back Thanksgiving, who, absolutely hates Trump. And we started going through all the particular issues. He goes, I'm liberal. Found out he's not really liberal. He just hates Trump. And when I started talking about what the Democrats were doing, he claimed ignorance. Well, I didn't know that. I don't know where you got that from. I don't know where you got that from. I don't know where you got that from. Sounded like Mark Cuban yesterday. Oh, I thought this was all just like this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
It's like, and I know he's smarter than that. He knows. And I know I backed him into a corner. So his only recourse was to say, well, I don't know where you're getting your information from. Mm-hmm. And then when we ended, the best thing is when we finally got off you're ready to get off the plane, one of the last things he said to me is, he goes, you really do your homework on all these issues, don't you? He goes, you're tough to argue with. Well, I mean, that's what my job's been for, 35, going on 35 years now in talk radio. You don't normally last that long unless something sinks through, your thick head. Mm-hmm. And believe me, it was a fight for me because I didn't want to do this. It's not like I embraced it. It's funny when I look at it because I'm the same person. I think the same, but when it came to my career, it's the last thing I wanted to do, and now it's like, I can't wait to get back on the air. I can't wait to get back on the air. This is the best job ever.
Right.
So it does show you in life you have no idea what you might like. You may sit there and look at something and go, I'll hate it, and you end up, it's exactly when you get to be my age looking back and you say, that's exactly what I should have been doing all along.
Yeah.
Because it fits what I like. I didn't know it. Nobody knew it, though. Mm-hmm. I was a convenience. Well, we think you can do it. Mm-hmm. I will say this, though. Sue, who my late boss, who owned the radio station, and she died about a year and a half ago. And every time I would talk to her, in the years, because I stopped working for her back in end of 92. And every time I talked to her, I'd have to say, you haven't said it yet, but thank you for making me do talk radio. Because it opened up my life. It gave me a life that I never knew would have been there, and I didn't know it.
Yeah.
And she said, though, the last time I talked to her, and it wasn't like she was sick at that time. It wasn't like that. Mm-hmm. She just said, no, I knew you could do it. Mm-hmm. I knew you had the smarts to do it. Because remember, I hired you as my station manager.
Mm-hmm.
So I knew you had it because you didn't even, and that's when I found out. And I have had people come up to me, younger people that I've mentored, and said, "You believed in me before I believed in me."
Mm.
I went, "Well, it happened to me."
Yeah.
You know, in fact, not only did I not believe in myself, I didn't want to believe in myself because I didn't want to do this.
Yeah.
And she did. But when you look overall, I think that one of the things one of the things is, as we've said, they can't argue the points. Number two, reality is hit now. Everything else in the past was abstract. For example, minimum wage won't affect anything.
Right.
You raise the minimum wage, there is no effect. You don't hear that argument anymore. Nobody really debates that anymore. They may raise the minimum wage, but that debate is gone. Inflation changes everybody on that. Well, I'm the story yesterday that Chick-fil-A has raised their prices 20% over the last 2 years.
Right.
Costs go up,
and
it get passed on to the consumer.
All the businesses in California that have had to lay people off and raise their prices because those are the only two things they can do.
We've on racism, we always have said, because if you've been a long time listener to the show, you know we've been saying this for a long time since we've been working together, that the identity politics of judging people as group and not an individual, that's where racism come from.
Right.
That's racism.
Yeah.
You can't argue that point.
Right.
Every Democrat listening right now knows the Democrat Party endorses racism because they endorse identity politics, which is judging people by the group they're in, not as individuals.
Right.
And our evidence again, the evidence is Harvard.
Yep.
And what you heard yesterday, well, they fired her because it's a black woman. Black women just can't get a break. Black women can't get a break. Was it black women? Because if that's the case, and you're saying that a black woman has to be the next hire, Condoleezza Rice.
And they would never allow that.
They never allow it. Why? Because it's not about being a black woman. They're using the race baiting again because they can't argue the point that they can't sell what they believe to the American public.
Right.
So they do the worst thing possible, and that's accuse the other side of having an absolutely heinous mindset when they're the ones that endorse that mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they can't win anymore because, as we all know, people aren't stupid. You're not, people listening right now, you're not stupid. You know that if you judge people by the group, by skin color, that's as stupid as judging them by hair color or eye color or the length of their nose. Or their ears. It's stupid.
It's the bigotry that we worked hard to move on from that still exists on the left and is in play. They not only endorse it, they behave in it every single day.
And the difference over the last 20 years is it's being taught in colleges.
Yep. Well, and it's being taught to the extent that if you're a student there and you come away from if you come away with an education from that university, you better be behaving the way that they taught you to behave. That's the mindset. We want to shape the individuals that are going out into the world to be the activists. It's not about that kind of education. If it were about education, then nobody would be talking about plagiarism by the outgoing president of the university. If it were about real education, that standard would be very clear all the way to the top.
But it's not plagiarism. It's just copying somebody else's work.
That's right. As I've been saying for years.
And not crediting them.
Yeah. One man's plagiarism is just another man's work.
That's plagiarism.
Yeah.
Let's go to Chris in Los Angeles. Chris, welcome. You're on Red Eye Radio. Hi, Chris.
Hey guys. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I agree with you guys, and I'm only 35, and I have to say I notice a huge shift in the way people act since I was in high school. There was none of this, what are you, Republican, Democrat, we care so much. The reason I think people can't argue their points and get so frustrated is because they don't know what they believe on the left. they just been being indoctrinated by these activist teachers now, which wasn't really going on when I was in high school. It started about right when I graduated college, and I think it was around 2011. So that's when I started seeing it. And they really have no idea what they believe in. I moved out to California about 10 years ago, and I remember I was on a date right when Trump was in his first term, and she asked me who I voted for, and I didn't vote. I hadn't voted at all in any elections. Didn't think politics were important. I told her I didn't vote for either of them, and she started crying at the date, and that's when I realized there's something really, really mentally wrong going on here with the way people are thinking about things. It's not healthy, and it was coming from the left.
Yeah, I can't make a judgment. Yeah, I can't make a judgment on the woman that you were dating.
Well, we can say,
go ahead, Eric.
It was on a first date.
Well, I will say this, Chris, is that we did hear anecdotally about these stories and individuals who would say, I can't go outside today. I can't leave the house today. I'm so distraught that he won. By the way, the same thing happened when Bush 43 won, and I think it was 2004, his reelection, and if I'm not mistaken, it was Vincent D'Onofrio, the actor, who apparently had to take time off from his job, acting, because he was so distraught that Bush 43 had won. And I think it was 2004, the reelection of it could have been 2000, but I think it was 2004. But those are but we see those. You saw the breakdown of Hillary Clinton, and thank you, Chris. Now, it's one thing to be the actual candidate and to suffer a defeat that you thought you were going to win after all the manipulation that you were involved in at the FBI and the media. You thought for sure you had bought this election and it was signed, sealed, and delivered. And, of course, it was not for her, and she lost, and she talked about it. She went home and cried on the couch. So there is a lot of emotional investment in this, there's no doubt. And I actually knew somebody, someone close to me worked with someone who said that they didn't leave the house for a couple of days after the 2016 election. They stayed home. They were distraught. They stayed in bed. They were depressed. And I don't think it's healthy for anybody to put that kind of investment in a person.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I'm privileged to know a ton of young people that have been extremely successful that never went to college.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about ranging from the ages of 25 to 35.
Mm-hmm.
And they think exactly like I do or you do.
Yeah.
On everything, the insanity that's going on. It's interesting because one of them that recently had a child. Saw a post the other day. I'm like, wow. And she was putting, I control what my child does, not the state. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
And because you think about it. Think about when we talk about the radical transgender movement.
Right.
What parent would say, oh, I want my kids to be instructed by the state?
Right.
I don't know what their opinion is going in, but whatever your opinion is on very sensitive topics, I am giving up my parental responsibility, and you're going to do it.
Right.
You think about it that way, you go, what the hell kind of parents would do something like that?
To the extent that on the left, it is politically feasible for them to say, parents have no place in the classroom.
Yes, exactly.
McAuliffe said it. Of course, that didn't work out for him, but there were other things not working for him as well. But I mean, but they have they believe that they can promote that idea. Parents don't have any. What's his name? Whose girlfriend floated the balloon over the U.S. Said,
Swalwell.
Yeah, Swalwell said the same thing.
Girlfriend flew the balloon over. That was funny. All right, go continue. I'm sorry, that just caught me. That was
Tell me where I'm wrong. And that's
I have this imagery of them smooching while she's holding the string of the balloon and letting it go into the air.
She's got the little guidance thing like a drone. She's flying it like a drone. They're sitting there on the couch. Hey, want to watch some Netflix?
I used smooching because it just didn't. I didn't want to get like
making out.
I didn't want to think about it much.
Yeah,
and smooching was a funny way to put it instead of.
And let's face it, that's not why she was there. Let's be clear. Let's be very clear about that little relationship. Can we? It was about access.
It wasn't a two-way?
No, not at all. Not at all.
Make sure. Let me clarify that. I'm just going to shut up.
Yeah, because anything you say, I'm with you. I was thinking of what else you could have said, and you can't say any of that either.
No, I can't say
No,
anything.
you can't. No,
I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm done.
Yeah, but the point is,
oh, good. There was a point.
Democrats have been. It is for them. They feel beyond empowered to say parents have no place in the classroom. And your friend now raising that's because I'm a grandparent now. My oldest grandchild will turn 19 here in a few months. Wow. I know it's and so I'm so far removed from having an infant where you're just worried about the world, and of course I worry about that for my kids, but being a new parent is something I'm removed from. It's been years.
Call and join the conversation. 1-866-90-RED-EYE. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Listen when and where you choose.
And thank you.
Yes. All right, I'm going to go to this audio cut here. This is Mayor Eric Adams on CNN with... I can't believe he graduated from the same high school as I did. Wolf Blitzer.
With better grades, even.
Oh, that's
what I heard.
Well, that wouldn't have been hard. That's not really like always. Well, Gary did a lot better than you did. 99% of high school did.
Are you smarter than a fourth grader? No.
Well, that's another thing about my life. You know what changed me about education? When I had to pay for it.
Yeah.
When I had to work for it, when I had to pay for it. I mean, it changed like that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not learning anything here. A year before, I don't want to learn anything.
Right. Right.
Oh, I'm paying for it? Oh, I need a return on my investment here.
Right.
But he's on with Wolf Blitzer. Yes, Wolf Blitzer went to the same high school I went to, in case people don't know that. But here's this. Listen to this here. Here we go.
All right.
Hang on.
Have you been outsmarted by the Texas governor, Greg Abbott?
No, anyone who has a diabolical mind would do diabolical things to just treat people in an inhumane way. We handle over 164,000 migrants and asylum seekers, and we're doing it in a humane way. We're very clear that we're going to continue to adjust as the governor of Texas carry out these actions to make sure that we send a very clear, loud message. No bus company should be participating in this action, and we're going to communicate with our partners in this region and make sure that we tell them they should file the same level of executive order to stop this from taking place.
All right, so let's follow the logic here. Because this is again why they can't win anything, which is why I'm so glad that we finally seem to have a solid core of conservative journalists out there that recently were Democrats, but they are so shocked at what's going on where they're covering this. But so Adams is saying that Governor Abbott of Texas is diabolical.
Right.
By the way, did you see the third quarter GDP, state GDPs for the third quarter of last year?
Texas is doing very well.
7.7%.
Yes.
California, New York, less than half of that.
Right.
And I think the only state that beat Texas was Kansas, but they have a much smaller economy.
Yeah, and a cool band.
Well, that's true. Boy, I love that documentary on Kansas.
Yeah.
I was a huge Kansas fan when they first, before they became, I'm like, if you've seen the documentary, it's pretty cool. The one guy, record producer, he goes, yeah, and so when they came out with Dust in the Wind, I went, yeah, okay, yeah, congrats. I'm glad that the song sucks.
And Detective Finley from Reacher is a big fan as well.
Season
1.
Oh, wasn't that the greatest scene?
I just love it. 38 Special, Kansas. I love that. I love that character.
And just so you know, that character, if people don't know it, is black. By the way, he makes an appearance.
Yeah, and he has a cameo in season 2.
In season 2, which that made my day.
Yeah, that was. I actually shouted Finley.
Yes,
when I saw him. Yeah,
what just such great character development on him. I'm glad they brought him back. I wish he would have joined them.
There's word of a spinoff, and I'm wondering if they're going to actually do some more with him.
He could do it.
He's a fan favorite. But some of the other characters, may be involved in a spinoff. That would be cool.
But he's black and likes all kind of classic rock and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And Reacher's white and likes all the old blues.
Right. Yeah.
And it's just hilarious as they're going back and forth. Like,
right.
How can you like that crap? How can you like that? I mean, it's hilarious.
Yeah.
But where was I?
Kansas and their state.
Oh,
and
yes,
Kansas.
Kansas.
Yeah.
Had a little bit of a higher GDP, but again, they have a much smaller economy.
Right.
So the dollar amount for Texas was just through the roof.
Well, given our economy, think about that. That's a massive, 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 massive accomplishment. To be over 7.
Yeah.
For that period.
And I think Texas. I think Florida was over 6.
Yeah. It's huge, huge. But you look at that, and we talked about it. I think we mentioned Chevron briefly. Writing the letter. Basically, we can't do this in California anymore. We can't. But more and more retailers looking at it. You see the retailers now that sell toys. New law that went into effect. You have to have one gender neutral toy aisle.
Yeah, saw that. Yeah.
And these are the things that, and it's but it's only for large stores with employees of 500 or more. Well, okay. The logic goes nowhere, but it's
stupid is what it is.
Well, that's the problem. If the state is going to get in the way of doing business, if the state is going to make it cost prohibitive to live there for its citizens, then, as we've been saying for a long time, at some point you can't afford to stay, and you're going to see other states prosper as a result of that.
But getting back here to Adams, so let's go point by point, because when you go point by point, they can't win, which is why I'm so glad there finally is it's fledgling, because it's still relatively new, but it is powerful. You've seen it with Harvard and everything else. The conservative media, not the traditional, because I'm not talking about like Fox News.
Right.
I'm, or things like that, or even Newsmax, or, I'm talking about, the Barry Weisses, the Michael Schellenbergers, the Matt Taibbi's, the Christopher Rufo, the Manhattan Institute, and the stuff that they write, National Review, the things that, they write, the Wall Street Journal editorial page. These people are just pounding, and they're winning. Yeah, and so all you have to do is break it down. You got to break down what they're actually saying, because when you break it down, they lose. Yeah. So Adams is saying that the governor of Texas is diabolical. Basically, his scheme is evil.
Yeah,
It's not
right.
humanitarian.
Yeah.
So what's actually happening here? Biden has opened the borders. Come across.
Yeah.
Governor Abbott has said, fine. Let's offer these people free bus tickets to where they wish to go in the United States. It's all voluntary.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody is forced to do it. You get to go. The federal government has allowed you in. You want to go somewhere? Is there a political point? Yeah, but it's a great political point. There is nothing that isn't humanitarian about it.
Right.
And so he's not going after, he's now, number one, the question from Wolf Blitzer was a setup to begin with.
That's what caught me.
Right. Let's frame, because it's not about it's not Governor Abbott versus Mayor Adams.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, again, to me, that's a bad journalistic question from Wolf Blitzer, who's, in my opinion, always been horrible.
Yeah.
Which is why I always say I'm embarrassed that he graduated from the same high school as I did with the journalistic ethics that he has.
Yeah.
And you can see it right there.
What a horrible high school.
What a horrible high school. Horrible.
Horrible.
What a horrible. By the way, people don't know what we're talking about. No, I love my high school. My high school was good. We were the number one football team a year before I went there.
Yeah.
In the United States.
Yeah. All right.
And I've told you about the coach there who was my German teacher.
Yeah.
Who gave me those great words of advice. McNamara, stop picking your nose.
There you go.
It's a true story, by the way. I'm not making that up. But so Adams is saying that Abbott is the evil one because Abbott's saying to these new migrants to the United States, where do you wish to go?
Right.
Would you like to go to New York? Would you like to go to Chicago?
Where their policy is to welcome you.
Where the policy is to welcome them. Now Adams is telling Blitzer, we don't want them coming here. The buses, they're not to come here.
Yeah.
Well, then you're the one that you extended the invitation, the so-called humanitarian invitation, and now you're pulling the rug out.
Well, no, there's the thing. He traveled abroad.
Yeah.
He went on tour to tell them they're not invited. Well, that's bigoted, Mayor Adams.
Well, he's right there, a xenophobe.
Exactly. You're not welcome. We don't want you.
Right.
There's no room for you here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm sorry, Greg Abbott is the problem?
Yeah. I mean, it's just, when you break it down, it's the arguments are falling apart. And that's why it was such a big day yesterday where I said, the campaign, the Biden campaign is starting. And there's more people screaming the same thing, but they're screaming what the public isn't buying. The public does not buy that Greg Abbott is the problem.
I didn't see this many pictures of Greg Abbott in the news during his last re-election campaign as I've seen over the last few days. I mean, it's just everywhere. And it's their talking points. Let's pick a bad guy and just blame it on him. This is all about him. No, it's not. And by the way, your constituents aren't buying it. Nobody else is buying it. The handful of Democrats that are trying to sell something that nobody is buying.
Mayorkas was doing the same thing yesterday.
Yeah.
Blaming Abbott.
Right.
It's all Abbott's fault.
Yeah.
This is all. Everybody knows that's a line of horse manure.
Yeah.
Every Democrat listening right now knows that's the biggest lie on the planet.
Right.
Okay. He might have said something else yesterday, from the administration that was a bigger lie.
That was a bigger lie. I was going to say, you kind of need to leave some room.
Yeah, I shouldn't go to those absolute conclusions, should I?
It's the biggest lie that we've heard in the last 5 minutes.
Okay, all right, that's good.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, but
it's terrible, and that's why they're having the problem that they're having. And you've got you see, Pelosi was on yesterday promoting the fact that Biden has cut the deficit, or cut the debt. Excuse me,
cut the debt. Yeah,
has reduced the debt. And she said deficit first and went, no, I mean debt. He reduced the debt. It's an absolute lie.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, they're sending everybody out. Everybody was out yesterday promoting that Biden is doing a wonderful job and gaslighting.
Well,
Gaslighting, gaslighting.
I will say, to be honest, he did cut the personal debt of Hunter and James Biden. There's that. You say the debt. I mean, it's so bad.
Well, yeah. Well, I didn't know you were referring to the debt of the United States.
No, but that's what I mean. I can hear that. I can actually hear some of them. Oh, well, you meant it's the whole Fauciism thing. They believe they're in Mayorkas. All of them. They believe they can just sit there and do this dance with this smirk on their face. Well, that's not what I mean. I didn't know you were referring to the national debt. I thought you were talking about the debt of his brother or his son.
He did everything he possibly could to help reduce their debt.
Exactly.
He actually gave them loans.
Yes. This guy's taking care of the debt.
Oh, you meant the country's debt.
Oh, the national.
Oh,
well,
we thought you meant his family's debt.
And then she could honestly say, well, nobody cares about the national debt. And she'd be right for the most part, conservatives not included.
866-90-RED-EYE.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. And I'll tell you one thing that, preparing for a show now, Eric, and we've actually not talked about this. This would probably be normally a bit behind-the-scenes thing we would talk about first. But really, when you look at, my mentality when I come in here, and it's been a while now, I can't tell you exactly when it started, is simply, okay, there's 10 topics out there that are the things that Americans are concerned about. And let's see how the left will make the poorest argument possible and try to justify it. And we'll just go in and go, all right, here's what they said. Let's break it down.
Right.
And we blow them away.
Right.
I mean, that's where it is every day. And, Christopher Rufo talked about that with Harvard. You've got to win. And, in order to win, you've got to have all your ducks in a row. You've got to argue correctly, which is why we've stated before with the Republican politicians, because where the right is effectively communicating, I believe, is not inside the Republican Party.
No, you're right. Absolutely right. In fact, we rarely see that anymore.
But it can be done. The proof is it can be done, and you can win.
Right.
Now, Stefanik did have something to do with Harvard, though.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, no doubt.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Wow. We had talked earlier about Elon Musk.
Yeah.
And the whole
Green Day exchange, right?
Green Day after apparently they were on one of the New Year's Eve shows, a Dick Clark one.
Yeah.
And changed one of their lyrics in American Idiot to anti-MAGA lyric. And Elon Musk, what was the actual quote? He accused Green Day of Milk Toastedly raging for the machine.
Yeah.
And so we had mentioned Rage Against the Machine because if you've been a long time listening to the show, you know how we've always pounded on their Marxist socialist ideas, led by really, I mean, the communist imagery, self-admittedly comes from Tom Morello, the guitarist. But Zach De La Rocca also, really into left-wing ideas and movements. But we didn't even know it when we started talking about them. They broke up yesterday. They're done.
Again,
yes.
Yeah. And thank you, Anthony, one of our great listeners. You guys were talking about them, and now they're breaking up. What's the deal? Yeah, you're welcome.
Well, if one of the things, and because we have always said it, when they talk Marxist socialist ideas, they're raging for the machine.
Of course. They want a larger machine to have greater control.
Right. And so, why they broke up, I don't know, but this would be the third time, I think.
Yeah.
And, when you, and we always stated this, whether it was, Green Day, where, we want to rally against, the powers that be. Mm-hmm. Well, now Green Day is endorsing the machine.
Yeah.
Green Day that can, punk, which is supposed to be about individuality, autonomy of the individual, completely gone. Now they support the machine because when you look at all the Democrats, as we've mentioned before, that have looked at the Democratic Party and gone, what the hell is this? And you see that I think it scared the hell, as we mentioned earlier, it scared the hell out of Matt Taibbi and Michael Schellenberger and Barry Weiss when they did the Twitter files. I don't think they could believe how the machine had got involved with the media, the mainstream media and social media, to censor stories to America. And this wasn't, and I think they went in there and said, my God, this is the FBI. This is the State Department.
Yeah.
This is the new administration.
Right.
This is the intelligence agencies. They're all attempting.
You talk about a machine.
Yeah, you talk about a machine.
It's a well-oiled machine.
And so if you've got Green Day out there still promoting the fact that Trump is the problem.
Yeah.
And ignoring what has gone on in the Democratic Party, it's not hard to see through the fact of your hypocrisy that you're the ones that are supporting the authoritarian, non-democratic machine, because a lot of these things were done with people that weren't voted into office.
Yep.
The policies came from that. So, yeah, but apparently Rage Against the Machine broke up yesterday again. So.
Well, it's really sad for anybody who cares.
Did it go back and forth? Did they respond?
No, apparently the drummer released a statement, Brad Wilk, and said that fans have been asking, wondering probably. Here's the quote.
Oh, no. I meant, was there a response from Green Day to what Elon Musk said?
To what Elon Musk said.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
I was on the much more important issue of Rage Against the Machine disbanding. This is breaking news.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if there was I don't know how far the back and forth went. Green Day, at their age, they may not be on social media. So I love the oldies. I just had to say that. Just had to say it.
Now, we had asked a few times last year, where's Green Day? Where's Rage Against the Machine? Where are they?
Right.
Are they having second thoughts? Because there's no way that you can have an open mind and a basic understanding of Marxism, socialism, and capitalism and look at the history and not understand that the machine really exists in a Marxist socialist society because it controls the capital, it controls everything.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's what I wonder is, let's say over the last 24 months, how much of that has changed in the fans' eyes? Now, a lot of fans will go, I don't care about I'm listening to the music. I don't care about the. But there are some fans that look at it and go, wait a minute, we see what's going on. We see what the machine has created. But I mean, specifically for Green Day, they're saying things on the road, especially and these liberal rockers love to do this when they're outside the U.S. The American far right, the American far right. All right, well, what about the American far left that you are endorsing and a part of? Let's take a look at the radical behavior and thoughts and ideas on that side. And while they may get away with it in Europe and people cheering for them, yay, 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 yay. I don't know how old their fans are, but they got to be up there in age. Yay. And but people have to look at that and say, oh, wait a minute. There has to be a few people going, well, wait a minute. You're endorsing the radical behavior. It's because it's one thing to go after Trump, and this is what they absolutely love, and it's also the only thing many of them have, is that you can make him the poster child. But they've done that repeatedly. They did it with Bush.
Well, I don't think that Elon Musk was necessarily defending Trump.
No, I don't think so either.
I think he was.
No, I didn't mean to imply that. No.
I think he was on the same tact as we are,
mm-hmm.
which is the fact that Elon Musk knows about the machine
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because he's the one that brought in all those journalists to examine the Twitter files, and they reported back. He read what they wrote,
mm-hmm.
which obviously showed the machine at work,
right?
In this country. And I had one more point. Oh, and the other half is he's a beneficiary of the lies of the machine through the subsidies for electric vehicles. Now I'm done.
But and my point is that you see it, and this was with Green Day changing their lyrics. They want to lump everything into, while ignoring what they're actually endorsing, what they're about, and the radical behavior. They throw everything up over into the Trump corner. And it's weak. But they believe, and they get away with it because so many people dislike Trump. Like we've been saying from the beginning. It's their hatred for one guy. Well, it'll be the next guy or gal or whoever it is. And Bill Maher said it, and he's also a part of it. Regardless of anything he said in recent months, Bill Maher was also the guy that said, yeah, well, we've been saying that, Bush was Hitler. This guy really is Hitler, speaking about Trump.
Which, of course, is as far from the truth as you can get.
Well, and you create that, again, that fear of, think about that. We broke it down when we said, when you're calling someone Hitler, what are you saying? You're driving that fear.
What you're saying.
That person, especially a person in that seat, in the presidential seat.
That he is somebody who would kill 6 million people.
Exactly. Because he's got that kind of power. They still want you to believe that, well, if he gets reelected, he won't leave office. All of these things. They need to drive that fear. And the fact of the matter is, on their side, now they're proudly promoting anti-Semitism.
Yeah.
The elimination of Jews.
Yep. And that's how this the whole Harvard thing started.
It's how, and as you explained earlier, we came to the conclusion years ago, it's how they think.
Yeah.
The reason when you say, well, my gosh, why are they saying that about everybody else? Why are they? It's because it's how they think. And now you can see it. Why were they calling anybody on the right Hitler? Well, it's because that's how they think.
Blacks have to think this way.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're not black.
Right.
Therefore, if all blacks must think alike, then all whites think alike.
Mm-hmm.
Then all Hispanics need to vote Democrat.
Right.
What a shock when they don't.
Right.
And so everything is based on, everything is based on you're in a particular group. You must think and vote this way,
right,
or you're not genuinely in the group, to the point of even the transgender movement with Caitlyn.
Right.
Well, Caitlyn truly isn't a woman. Every other transgender is, but you cannot have a conservative mindset and pretend to be a woman.
Exactly.
That's we stop it there.
Yeah, right. That's where we draw the line.
That's where we draw the line.
Yeah.
I mean, none of it makes sense, but that's all identity politics, which is, we said over and over again, the identity politics is going to turn on you because it's also part of the victim oppressor, where you're constantly creating new victims.
Right.
Therefore, you need to constantly create new oppressors, where you get to the point where Martina Navratilova is now viewed as an oppressor of gay rights.
Right. And we said it.
I mean, that's
at
how
some
bizarre
point
it is.
you're going to be the oppressor.
Yeah.
Because the mindset is to go out each day and become a victim for a new reason. And when you become a part of another subgroup as a victim, then even people who sided with you before may be the oppressor tomorrow. And that's
AOC.
the vicious, exactly. That's the vicious cycle that is going to play out over and over again. It's not going to change.
No. That's where we are.
Yep.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. In order to manage speed, you need to understand the 4 factors involved in stopping a vehicle. Perception distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time you see a hazard until your brain recognizes it. The perception time for an alert driver is approximately 3/4 of a second. Reaction distance is the distance a vehicle travels from the time your brain tells your foot to move from the accelerator until your foot hits the brake pedal. The average driver has a reaction time of 3/4 of a second. Brake lag distance also needs to be taken into account. When operating a vehicle with air brakes, it takes about half a second for the mechanical operation to take place. Finally, braking distance is the distance it takes a vehicle to stop once the brakes are applied. Braking distance is affected by the weight, length, and speed of the vehicle, as well as road condition. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
Turn on radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So as we've been talking about, the 2 big things yesterday was and like I said, it was the first day of the Biden campaign.
Yeah,
the surrogates were all out there,
right,
on the border crisis, and then you had, of course, the fallout from the resignation of Claudine Gay as president of Harvard. But this is just fascinating here. New York Post. New Jersey deploys cops to send dump migrants to New York City in desperate move.
Yeah.
Migrants in New Jersey, forget about it. New Jersey officials are making sure the Big Apple doesn't dump the out-of-control migrant mess on the Garden State and are even deploying cops to usher asylum seekers from the U.S. border into Manhattan-bound New Jersey transit trains as soon as they get off their buses. The scrap across the Hudson comes as the New Jersey governor tries to rally the state's mayors to form a united front, while New York City Mayor Eric Adams pleads with Murphy to take on at least part of the migrant burden that is burying the 5 boroughs. New Jersey just said, F this, one source close to the situation told the New York Post on Wednesday. New Jersey transit cops were waiting for them to show up and show them how to get on a train to New York. Multiple Garden State sources described the scene as hectic over the last few days as nearly 24 migrant buses rolled into train stations with chaperones, with New Jersey transit cops then taking over and serving as guides on how to get nearly 1,000 asylum seekers across the river. These are Democrat mayors.
Yeah.
I mean, the xenophobia with Democrat politicians is going through the roof.
Wow.
By the way, I say that. I don't believe they're all xenophobes. I'm using what the language Democrats have used against Republicans for years.
Yep. It's their playbook.
Yes.
And
now the one thing is, though, the process has been successful so far with no migrants, none wishing to stay in New Jersey. That's how bad it is in New Jersey.
Did you say New Jersey? No. New York? Not New Jersey. No.
Since Saturday, 23 buses have dropped off 1,017 asylum seekers in New Jersey, with 953 then boarding trains to Manhattan and the rest going elsewhere, but not New Jersey.
Interesting.
The new wrinkle in the old crisis stems from Adams' move last week to issue an executive order limiting the influx of migrant buses from the border, most of them from Texas.
Now, the new motto on the license plate there in New Jersey is, move along, people. There's nothing to see here. So maybe it's working.
Adams demanded 32-hour advance notice before the buses arrive in Manhattan and may only do so at one spot and only between 8:30 a.m. and noon. But charter bus companies did an end around, dropping hundreds of migrants off in unsuspecting New Jersey stations in Secaucus, Fanwood, Edison, and Trenton, where they are guided onto Manhattan-bound transit trains that are not covered under Adams' orders. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Wow.
Just what a zoo.
Yeah, it is.
And who's to blame? Who created this?
Of course, Greg Abbott. Yeah.
Well, not really, but...
Call in and get a word in edgewise. Eric Harley and Gary McNamara on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome. Thank you for being here. Just was checking out National Review. I hadn't checked it out yesterday. It's like Garrity, the rank dishonesty in Claudine Gay's departure from Harvard.
Yeah.
Duh. As we have stated.
Well, it is typical of the far left. You get found out, and then you've got to create cover. And your cover is bigotry, racism. But there's no doubt about the behavior. Gay was participating in the anti-Semitism as president of that school. And the plagiarism could not be clearer. There's nothing you can say about that. It's a desperate attempt to try and defend it and to throw it in the corner of racism and bigotry is the only game that the left has these days. It's the only thing they can do. They don't know any other playbook. They have nothing else because they have nothing on the issues.
Well, the thing is here, they all three of them, when the college presidents were up there, and it was, very easy, is the calling for the genocide of Jews, against your school policy.
Mm-hmm.
And they went into freedom of speech.
Right.
They, at that point, they're not dumb people.
No.
They know this was not a freedom of speech issue. That was not the question being asked. The fact that they went to that as the default explanation when it doesn't apply here, that was the first bad mistake that they made.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it got to, especially for the University of Penn president, well, it depends on the context.
Right.
Or whether you follow through.
Right, yeah.
Well, if you follow through, and then Stefanik, are you saying it's only against your school policy if they actually commit genocide?
Yeah.
At that point, you just went, okay, somebody's going to have to resign here, and you saw that happened. And then her case in Harvard, that's what got it started. Then the plagiarism was the undoing. And yesterday with the op-ed piece in the New York Times, no apology, no remorse.
I'm a victim.
Nothing. I'm a victim of racism.
Right.
When you're actually talking about an institution that is immersed in identity politics, which is racism. And you can't debate it, because their debate is that if you're a black liberal woman, you can be a racist.
Mm-hmm.
You can't be a black conservative woman.
Right.
And be a racist. But if you're a liberal black woman, you can be an anti-Semite. You can be a racist. And that's okay because of past wrongdoings to other people that had your same skin color decades and centuries ago.
Right.
That's their argument.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't hold water with the American public.
It is not. It does not.
And that excuses plagiarism. Because plagiarism is okay from a liberal black woman. It would not be okay for a conservative black woman, which proves our entire point that they know it's not about skin color, it's about their beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
And they cannot defend their beliefs. So they pretend it's about something else.
Right.
And nobody's buying it.
Yeah, the whole world is out to get me. Conservatives are out to get me. And, when the defense is weak, it really makes you wonder how deep is this at that school?
Well, if it's as, we talked about, what was it, between 400 and 500 people in the administration that sent the letter to Biden saying ceasefire right now.
Right.
As we all know, that means, of course. And the thing is, when you look back, and you and I talked about the New York, it was the New York Times story that they did from the witnesses and some of the hostages and what they actually saw.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about it on yesterday's show, and it's very tough to talk about if you've read it, because you're talking about the worst evil possible in murdering human beings.
Yeah.
And that's as you're raping a woman, killing her at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
In the most brutal and vicious ways known to mankind. You're talking about torture that probably you saw in some Nazi concentration camps brought to life here. And now what do you have? Because you ask about the colleges. Biden campaign staffers issue letter protesting Israel-Hamas war, called for ceasefire and an end to all aid for Israel.
Mm-hmm.
These are the members of the Biden campaign.
Yep.
Over a dozen of them saying, we believe that Jewish women ought to be murdered in that way, and there should be no recourse for Israel.
Right. And end all aid to Israel.
Yes. Understand how radical, vicious, evil, barbaric these people are. Because it's, like I said, you read that, and when I read the New York Times article, I first read it over vacation. It was around right after Christmas when Barry Weiss, when she put it on. It was hard to read just the first two examples that she had on there. I mean, it was so hard to read the torture that they were going through as the rape torture they were going through as they were being killed. It's unspeakable, but it has to be brought up to the American public, and this needs to be thrown in the face of these people in the Biden campaign, the Biden administration, and the United States needs to know that these people stand on the side of the most brutal sexual violence while you're murdering somebody. They believe that's okay, and Israel deserves it.
What does it look like on the stage at the Democratic National Convention?
I know. That's a great point now with this whole thing going on. That's a great point.
Because
we stand, can you imagine? We stand by Israel and we're against the Hamas terrorism. You may forget about booing God.
You could cause a riot. You're going to be in Chicago. You'd cause a riot if you say something like that. We stand by Israel as anyone in that party. So what does it look like? Those giving speeches. What does it look like on the stage at the Democratic National Convention? You and I talked about it before October 7th, talking about the liberal transgender movement and how they were fighting for the rights of children to decide to have genital mutilation surgery. And I said, well, that's going to be in someone's speech. It has to be. It's part of the fabric of the Democratic Party. And now this anti-Semitism is also part of the fabric of the party.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't get up on that stage.
Well, because when you're talking about the 400 to 500 people that are part of his administration, you're talking about government workers.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're talking about, and when you talk about his campaign, over a dozen, these are people that are viewed as professional campaigners that are Democrats. These are mainstream Democrats. Now, all Democrats do not embrace this barbaric anti-Semitism, this evil anti-Semitism and pro-terrorism mindset.
But are they going to have a policy?
But they have a significant
of silencing them.
But that's a great point there. Will they have a policy of silencing them and understand that these are mainstream people hired into high government positions in the United States government and in the Biden campaign? And they have as evil as a mindset, and all I ask you to do is go read the New York Times article.
Yep.
Or go to Barry Weiss on Twitter, where she quoted some of it, and understand what happened in that genocide, and read it for yourself and see if you can get through it without getting sick.
Right.
Because that's how brutal it is. That's how evil it is. And there's no mistaking, it may not be mainstream in the in the voter, and it may not be fully mainstream within the Democratic Party, but it is a significant portion of mainstream Democrats that are pro-terrorism and pro-genocide of Jews.
Mm-hmm.
There's no other way to look at it. You said it day one. Either you're a pro-terrorist anti-Semite or you're the rest of us.
That's it. It's the radicals versus everybody else. And how do you silence the radicals on the stage there at the DNC this summer in Chicago?
Well, who will be the radicals by that time? Will it be the side that abhors the anti-Semitism or the side that promotes the anti-Semitism? I can't tell you right now.
I don't see the anti-Semitism going away. I don't see that going away. And how do you silence that side? Because it could be, you could get to a point of it being a very, on that point alone, a very divided, contentious convention.
You're right. You would have never thought you could have caught Democrats, a major political party, booing God. When was that? 2012?
Yeah. That was so.
Wow.
That's almost 12 years ago.
Going on 12 years,
yeah.
They booed God.
Yeah. And I don't know, because you're not going to silence the radicals. They will be there wearing suits, not just outside, marching or doing whatever they're doing outside the convention. They're going to be inside. They're official members of the party. They're official members of the campaign. They're official members of the government. And they are radical, and you will not silence them. So I don't know what you do. I don't know what that looks like.
1968 convention in Chicago.
It very well could resemble that. Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, because we've seen it. Since October 7th, we have seen it. And you see it within the party. You see liberals that are famous that come out and say, how in the world can you support this anti-Semitism? How can you ignore this?
And, I don't know if he's a liberal or not, but we talked about Friends actor David Schwimmer talking about it.
Well,
and going, my God, I mean, how can anybody, because he's read the stuff that we've read.
Right.
And what happened, what the genocide, because genocide in a way can sort of, I hate to say it, but can sort of sugarcoat when you actually read what was done to these people.
What about Fetterman?
Yeah, it's a great point. Wow, Fetterman will be booed.
Yeah. Imagine that.
Wow, 86690 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Will be interesting. What is it next week? They're Mayorkas.
Yeah.
Impeachment questions and things like that supposed to come up.
Yep. That's going to get very fascinating.
Yeah,
that's going to be really fascinating to watch
because it's time for the Republicans to make it very clear what's going on here.
Yes.
That,
tell the story with no questions.
Tell the story. I mean, the whole thing of trying to blame Governor Abbott shows you how intellectually bankrupt they are right now.
Right.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.